This episode of Inside Voices is sponsored by Lecky Scotland. You can build inquisitive and positive mindsets towards maths with Primary Maths for Scotland. It's a whole school scheme developed specifically for Curriculum for Excellence. With teacher guides, textbooks, assessment packs, it provides everything that teachers need. You can find out more about this by visiting leckyscotland.co.uk.
Welcome back to Inside Voices, a teacher podcast by teachers for teachers, where we discuss all things education. I'm your host, Laura.
And I'm David.
And remember that in here, we use our inside voices. On this week's episode, we are going to be talking all about teaching the arts in a primary school. So art, music, drama. The big question to start us off is, how do you feel about teaching the arts in your classroom?
It's a big favourite of mine, to be honest. I just don't feel like I get enough. Whoa! The size of that fly.
It's on your leg.
That's the size of a horse. Wait.
Just
saw you freeze.
No, I don't want to kill it. It deserves to live.
That was huge.
That's
Okay,
a big
the
fly.
arts. Yeah, I like it. I'm not going to lie. It's one of my favourite things to teach. It was one of my favourite things to learn in school.
Yeah.
Like I did art the whole way through school. I stupidly dropped it for higher for some reason, and I think I would have done really well in it in higher, but I don't know, I wanted to become an accountant, so
Don't need art for that.
no.
Definitely not.
But I did graphic design instead, so I was really interested in that. Did music up to standard grade, like all those things. I love doing, I play the piano and guitar, so they're kind of up my street. If I had to pick a favourite, it would be music. Love teaching music in school, and I just don't think I get enough opportunity to do it, which is fine. But I try and like drip it in different ways.
Yeah.
What about you?
I enjoy a lot of it as well. I think music and drama more so than others. If you have, actually, by the time this goes up, there'll be a video on my TikTok where we were doing a draw along the other day. So if you want to see why I don't like art, you should go and watch that video and have a look at my attempt of drawing a pug.
Okay.
On my whiteboard.
Right.
I'll just let you make your own opinion, form your own opinions of my drawing abilities. But probably the only person to ever be told they're not allowed to take standard grade art. It didn't even get to the point where they were politely discouraging me. They were just like, no, absolutely not. What about this instead? But in saying that, I also really enjoyed graphic design. Mm-hmm. Really, I did product design for, wasn't a standard grade. I can't remember what it was called. The other option.
Nat 5?
No, that wasn't around. I can't remember.
And 2.
Yeah. So I did product design for that, and I also did higher photography. Really like that. So artistic abilities, just when it comes to like drawing and painting, absolutely not got an artistic bone in my body. Music and drama, again, you'll be unsurprised to know I was a musical theatre girly when I was younger. Really enjoyed it. So it's something I love teaching, but kind of like you, there's just not the time. Yeah. Sometimes for it. I feel like the curriculum is so vast that you just don't get the time for it.
And sometimes I feel like we have to, because certain times of the year you get your art and your music in, your Christmas show, you're getting your music in.
We've been singing Christmas songs since Halloween, by the way. Yeah. And I also did Christmas card making today. So if I'm a little bit sparkly, I've not turned into a vampire.
And but all that stuff like Remembrance, you do your Remembrance Day art. Yeah. We're doing World War II, so you do your Blitz art, and they all, like, I would rather just sit down and be like, okay, let's do an art study on Picasso, or
because sometimes it takes
you do that
creative,
down the scope.
You say like creative freedoms as if I'm planning like a Broadway show, but it does kind of take. Like, we did a musical theatre club last year, or we'd done a musical theatre club last year. We did a musical theatre club last year. It's been a long day, and it was such good fun because it was something different. Yeah, like it wasn't the same thing we had done in previous years, and it was actually the first time doing it, and it was also children who chose to be there, so that was a little bit different because they obviously enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But it was just such a different experience of teaching music, and it sort of flipped it on its head for me, because it was not just here's what a beat is, here's what the rhythm is, even though that's really important. It was a lot of sort of more in depth, and we chose to do.
I think if we're doing it again, I think we don't perform at the end of it.
No, just do it for fun.
I think we just do it for fun.
But then they loved performing.
They did like performing, but I think we had to then focus on that one song for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's
rather
true.
than just being like, right, let's learn a song
Let's
from
learn how to sing.
Wicked, or let's learn a song from, Les Mis
Let's
or
not
something.
get sued by Wicked, because I don't think you're allowed to sing them without rights. And they don't have a school
learn
show.
a song from Micked. Do you know, this is so random, but I was teaching the other day, World War II, and we were talking about the Allied versus Axis countries, and one of the kids in my class came out with an absolute belter. But I was rhyming off some of the countries, and I was like, just stop me if you don't know any of these European countries, because Europe's changed a lot. Some of the countries don't exist anymore. Yeah. Yugoslavia, for example. And then I got to East Prussia. And one of them was like, East Prussia? That sounds what you buy it. That sounds like... Oh, I butchered it, haven't I? That sounds like what you buy at Aldi. And I was like, I was killing myself laughing. Like an Aldi version of Russia. Anyway, that's so by the by. It was way funnier when he delivered it.
Yeah, it didn't have the delivery with it. But,
okay.
We're not talking about comedy shows, so you're okay. You're fine. Okay. But I think what you said is really important, that you just never seem to find the time to fit it in. But it's actually... it's interesting, because I think the arts in general are very undervalued in the sort of adult world, if you will. Like when we grow up in society and what we do, none of my friends work in artistic jobs. There's a couple who are in musical theatre and things, but out of the majority of people I know, the arts is totally undervalued. Like you'll go to the theatre and watch the pantomime, or you go to the theatre and watch a show, but you don't really see that as a job where you go, wow, that's a really good job to do, even though it is so hard to get into any sort of artistic job, because your talents have to be there and you have to prove your talents instantly, or it's like, well, no, you're not for us. It's a cutthroat industry, the whole of the arts. But interestingly, there was a survey done, and I can't remember where the survey was taken, so forgive me for that, but 70% of teachers recognise the importance of the arts, but then that's not reflected in the public's opinions. So it's like it's valued in schools, but then that's not reciprocated in sort of the public domain. So then that makes children sort of go, well, what's the point?
This makes me so sad, because the arts, drama, art, music, is where some children really thrive.
Yeah.
And they necessarily don't thrive in the academics. So maybe maths isn't too easy for them. They struggle to read and things, but some can be just beautiful musicians, or some are really good at drama and expressing themselves in front of an audience and coming up with how they feel and how they can express that. And some of them are so good at drawing. And
amazing.
And we just maybe squash that a little bit in society. I mean, I had friends that went and did jobs in the arts. It's really hard. A lot of them have gone on to be writers, more than kind of in front of a camera. A lot have gone on to be writers. They were good writers in schools, and they've gone on to be screenwriters and write books and things. But the main kind of thrust of our high school was, let's get you into profession. Yeah. It was quite a high performing high school. Kind of sat in the top 10 every year. Roughly, my year didn't, but kind of sat in the top 10 in terms of exam results. And it's basically like, if you can't get as an A or a B and you're higher, have to leave, you're not going to do that higher, you're going to try something else. And so that then forces people to try and get into professions. Like they would want you to stay for 6th year to get you like better exam results. So basically, like a lot of my friends were told, like, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, you want to be an accountant. And I think that's where it came from, this idea that I wanted to be an accountant. That you want to go into one of these high-level professions, whereas a lot of my friends were really good in the arts.
And then it's just considered a hobby rather than a career path. Yeah.
And thankfully, a lot of their parents were like, no, you go and do what you want to do, we'll support you. But not everyone gets that. Whether it's high-performing parents, they want you to go into these professions, or whether it's parents like, no, you need to go get a job. Not many families support people into the arts. And I think, number one, like what you said, it is hard.
Yeah, it's so cutthroat.
To build a career in them, but I think it's probably easier. Well, it's maybe easier nowadays. I don't know, with social media and things to get out there. I don't know if it is or not.
I think, especially since it's something that in schools they really push is just doing it for enjoyment. But then when you get into it being a job, can you imagine going to all these auditions and all these things and getting cut constantly? Like it's like going for a job interview where you're then secured in that job. You go, you get a contract, you're there on the stage for a couple of years, and it's one of those things where sometimes when you come out of it as well, so when you leave uni at 2021, you want to get that job and move on with your life and what you want to do. But if that's not going to happen instantly, and if you're taking a job in the arts, because it takes a lot of time, and people are like, well, I'll just do something else.
You've got to pay your dues. Yeah.
But it's such a valuable, it's actually really sad because it's such a valuable subject. Like I said, 70% teachers see it as valuable, because think about, we've recently adapted our writing and we now do talk for writing, which involves a lot of drama, and that drama just totally assists in the sort of analysing of a story, understanding the structure of a story, being able to use show instead of tell, like all of those aspects. Yeah, all of those aspects of writing come to life when you're using drama. And like you said, it gives children the opportunity to shine somewhere they maybe normally wouldn't, and somewhere they maybe have a lot of anxiety about getting something written down.
Yep.
But if you can act it out, you're still showing me you can understand things. So it's actually, you don't need to do it in isolation. You can do these things as part of something else. It doesn't need to be an isolated sort of curricular area. It can all just be tied in. Are there any ways that you sort of tie it in through your practice?
I think first of all, like what you said there about it being valued is really important. Remember during COVID, and like the people that were keeping us going were the people in the arts.
Yeah,
everyone was addicted
massively
to Netflix. Everyone was watching things like online. It was the arts that were keeping people going. Like series became really big. Now I've said that I literally can't remember.
All I can think of is The Tiger King.
The Tiger King.
But that was apparently real.
Yes. Was Stranger
Carol
Things,
Baskin.
did that come out? I can't remember during lockdown. But basically, that's what was always said was, we have undervalued the people in the arts so much, and look who it is that's been providing, a bit
all
of
the
relief
entertainment
and a bit of entertainment.
But I don't think children see the people that they see on screens as people who are in the arts.
What do you mean?
So I don't think they would see their favourite pop star, their favourite actors and all that. I don't think they would see that as someone who's in an artistic job. I just don't think it clicks, because sometimes music is, right, this is how we're going to keep a beat, and they think, right, okay. But they don't then see Taylor Swift as being an artist, like all the things that go into that. They see it as, she just goes on stage and she sings some songs, but they don't see the kind of mastery and the skill behind that. They don't recognise that that's a job that takes a lot of work and a lot of talent. But that's something that maybe we as teachers need to sort of encourage more. I mean, the kind of creative problem solving that comes from doing all of these things. Also, the engagement increase when you do something artistic. I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea, right? I know, especially with singing. I always get it with people when we're doing singing. They're always like really quiet and shy at the start. But by the end, because I just try to make it as fun as possible, I'm like, everyone can sing. I promise you, you think you can hear yourself and you're singing really loud, but the person next to you can't hear you because they're also singing loud. And we end up just sort of letting go of our fears a little bit and worrying. I think people are a lot more self-conscious now as well. Yeah. So you let go of that, and by the end of it, everyone's having a great time. Yeah. But the increased engagement for me is something you always get. If you're doing an IDL topic and then you get to do that bit of art, everybody is engaged. You hear the buzz around the room. And in a way that kind of makes me a little bit sad that it's because they don't. I mean, I was the same when I was a kid. When we got to do art, I was like, oh my goodness, we never get to do something like this. This is so exciting. When the oil pastels came out with the paints, I was like, this is so exciting. And it kind of makes me go, well, I should be doing this more often, because this is something they enjoy. They're also learning way more than just the artistic skills. So I should, and I'm also a wee bit guilty of putting something up on the board and being like, okay, you're going to make this sunset background. Just copy me. But I'm not actually,
copy the video.
I'm not explaining the skills, and that's my confidence level. So that's okay. We're going to talk about this in a wee bit, but I don't know. I think it's just
but I think what you're saying there is right, because it is quite sad. Like when you see the engagement levels go up, and you ask me if I integrate it in any way into my practice, which I do. And one of the reasons is engagement. Yeah. One of the reasons I make sure I've got the arts in there is to lift the engagement, because sometimes lessons can be a little bit dry. Not gonna lie, not everything is super exciting.
No. If you have every lesson all singing and dancing, then I take my hat off to you, but I certainly can't do that.
The easiest one, I think, you've obviously spoken about drama and writing, and I would use that quite a lot in writing, even for just little drama games.
Yeah, like hot seating and things.
Hot seating and 20 questions, that kind of thing.
Do you want to explain a couple of those just in case anybody doesn't know what that is?
Yeah, so hot seating is you basically get a child, or you could do it, and you sit them in a seat at the front of the class, and say, for example, you're writing about a character. You tell that child, okay, you are this character, and then they have to answer as the character. So the class might ask them, look, this is the way I do it anyway. The class might ask a bunch of questions and be like, okay, have you got brown hair? And the character's like, no, I've never grown brown hair. I've always been blonde or whatever. I don't know. I'm shut up.
Yeah, but they
have to answer as the character, and then they maybe have to, the class guesses who the character is. Or
Troy Bolton.
We did it like
music or basketball. What are you picking? Answering the answer like Troy Bolton.
Yeah, basically. Or you could do it like setting.
Question.
I choose basketball.
I choose whatever my heart desires.
They could do setting, or they could do story, whatever it is. Remember I spoke about a couple of weeks ago being in the circus with the
Hugh Jackman hat.
Yeah. And we did a hot seating activity with that, where I came in dressed up as like a circus ringmaster, and they had to ask me questions about being in the circus, and that was the way I got my information out about the circus, rather than just saying, okay, sit down.
Here's
So I'm going to do it with World War II. Like, I'm going to come in as Winston Churchill, or I'm going to come in as an evacuee, or come in as a Battle of Britain pilot, and they can ask questions and I have to answer it like
that character. And it's a really good, it's actually
so engaging.
It really shows their inferential skills as well, if they're able to do either part of that.
You also have to know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, because they ask you like specific questions.
You're like, I don't know what kind of plane I was flying. But that's hot seating. You can do it in a couple of ways. Yeah, 20 questions, that kind of games are good. I use music a lot.
Yep.
In different ways. So in maths, I would use music for like times table songs, things like that. They're quite a good way to learn times tables. They're also a good way to learn a bunch of different grammar topics and things, like punctuation and things like that. When you're down the school, I wouldn't, like in my class, I'm not going to be whipping out a song for
speech marks. The rounding rap is an absolute tune. We used that in primary 7 and I still do it. I love it.
I've never heard of that in my life.
You'll need to. I'll put it on YouTube when we go out.
How does it start? Sorry.
You find the place value and you circle the digit. Have you never heard this one?
No.
It's like find the place value and circle the digit. No, that's really good.
Yep. Okay.
Move to the right and underline it.
Wow. Okay.
If this makes it into the final cut, I'm going to be mortified.
Jack Hartman.
Well, do you know what? We're talking about going for it and not caring what other people think. So exactly that. But I think you also need to make it really relatable to children and point out to them all the different things that are involved in the arts, because sometimes, you get it with shows. There's certain children who are like, I don't want to be on the stage. I don't want people to look at me. I totally get that. And, we planned a primary 7 show together. We actually wrote the entire script.
Unreal.
There was 2 of us, to be fair. We wrote the entire script. We did all the staging, lights, everything. But there's always children who are like, I don't want to perform, or I don't want to have a role myself, but I want something. Like, I want to do something.
There was none that year, though. That year
everyone wanted to do that year, but we had people who were being like stage hands. We had people who were preparing the props. Costumes. We had people who were doing lights. We had people who were painting things. Like we tried to look at every aspect of a performance, and we showed them. I'm sure we showed them kind of bootleg clips from like Broadway shows, and we're like, look how much goes into this. Well. Yeah, there's sound technicians, there's lighting, like there's all these people who are putting on the show. It's not just the people you see on the stage, and that's all arts as well. That's all part of the arts. It's all being able, like, if you can look at something on a stage and say, oh, it should be lit this way because this lighting's going to be really good for this scene, and that's going to look really good with this character's story, and you're able to do all of that. That's all part of what the arts needs. But there's such, because there's such a decline in people taking the arts up as jobs, or taking the arts up in kind of advanced higher schooling, I worry that we're just going to end up not missing out on these amazing things, but wasting people's talents almost.
Yeah, and I think we saw that when schools shut during lockdown, and when they came back and it was like Christmas shows were canned. So now you really miss that community within the school. I mean, I really feel sorry for the primary 7s, or in England, the year 6s, who missed all of that end of year stuff, who didn't get to do their end of year show, who didn't get to do like their Christmas show and things like that, because those are moments that you never forget now.
I know exactly what he's about to say.
Picture the scene.
Okay.
Primary 7. Jack of the Beanstalk. 2007. Your boy was Jack.
Circa
okay?
2007.
Circa 2007.
Haha.
Haha. For anyone that doesn't get that, we cannot stop saying there's this guy on TikTok in the west of Scotland. I think it's really regional, to be honest.
It's very specific.
After every sentence he says haha, and we cannot stop saying it. Haha. I was Jack and Jack and the Beanstalk. Haha. So stupid. Basically, your boy was the star of the show. Haha.
Of course.
And I just still remember doing it. Do you know what I remember the most? Forgetting my last line. But anyway, that stuck with me because it was tragic.
Awkward.
But I remember doing that, and what I'm trying to say is that was such a big part of my primary 7.
Yeah.
I remember auditioning for it. I remember learning the lines. I remember learning the songs. It was all in rhymes, so I had to I couldn't even ad-lib any bits because it was all rhyming. And I remember the whole process. I remember when we were practicing it one day, the rest of the class had to go out and play football because no one had parts, and it was just me and this other kid that were doing parts, and I felt like, oh, this is so special and stuff.
But the confidence that can also give, the confidence that can give a child is unbelievable. Amazing. Because sometimes it's the really quiet ones who also then thrive in that environment.
And I think you miss that big part of community with schools.
Oh, absolutely. And so obviously this is all about kind of practical advice and things you can take to the classroom. But there's 3 sort of main issues that have been highlighted with teaching the arts in classrooms. The top one that people have spoken about is confidence. Of course, so Creative Scotland identified these 3 main issues. Confidence levels in sort of schools and teachers. Primary school teachers are generalised. They're able to teach everything. We're not specialist educators. Although you have got teachers that then have a specific skill, and certainly in Scotland, they might do non-class contact and come in and do art with your class, which, I've had that experience before. And the work the children were producing, because it was like a 4 or 5 week project that just came to life, and they were beautiful pieces of work, something that I as a class teacher would struggle to find the time to do. But as sort of generalist teachers, we teach everything, we do it all in primary schools here. So confidence, no wonder it's low, especially if you're someone, and I think the arts is also that subject where if you didn't feel that confident in literacy, there would be no hesitation in going and finding some CPD on literacy. So, when I think about our switch to Talk for Writing, when we first got that information, it was a ton of information. I didn't feel that confident, and I was able to go online and find stuff and work on it really quickly, was able to study the textbook, go through everything, watch videos, ask people on social media, go and get all of that practical advice. Whereas if with art, have I done anything in the 5 years I've been teaching to improve my artistic ability? No. And I don't know why, because I'm not someone who doesn't value it. I enjoy the arts and I enjoy teaching it, but there's just something there that makes me go, oh, it's prioritizing. And I think we recognize the importance, but we don't prioritize. Yeah. And that could be an issue. So confidence levels was the main issue. The second issue was lack of training. So whether that's training that is sort of authority driven or school driven or personalised, you're choosing to go and do that, and also a lack of funding and a lack of resources, because it's expensive, right? Especially if you lack confidence, you want a resource that's going to support you really well. And many schools these days are not well resourced with funding being cut and everything, so those are the first things to go. You need new paintbrushes. Sorry, we've got to prioritise something else, which is understandable. Yeah, totally. And those 3 things also just make the problem bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's how do you begin to tackle those things? If you had a piece of advice for someone who said, right, I'm really not confident in teaching music, what would be your suggestion to them for teaching that? Music's a tough one. See, I picked that one because I thought that would be the easier one. Really? Well, my problem is I get sent to piano lessons when I was 7 or something. So it's just always been a part of my life. Being able to read music and all that. So it's hard to think of it. It's hard to think of how to do that. We have used things in the past in school, like charanga and stuff like that. We've used. There's really good ones on YouTube that are about keeping a rhythm and keeping a beat. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've used them in class quite a few times. Yeah, very straightforward, but the children absolutely love it. Obsessed. So even if you don't feel that confident, then... And one thing that we've always done that is good as well that you can get on YouTube is music
rhythm games.
Yep.
So maybe you don't have the musical instruments out as of yet. You can get to that, but
get the glockenspiels out.
Yeah, well, the rhythm games like I Like Coffee, I Like Tea, Can You Catch the Ball for me? Such a great game, and all those like rhythm games to get them to keep a beat and things.
Yeah, and you could do them in like gym as a warm up.
Yeah,
you know, and like you can study the composition of music in other ways. I posted a video a couple of weeks ago about writing and using music to spark imagination in writing. So I pick a song for each section of our planning. So the introduction, the build up, the problem resolution and ending. The introduction is like married life and up. So it's all and it's all happy. And then you go to the build up and it's like I picked one from Frozen. It was like a sort of chase scene where it's all happy and then something changes.
Show yourself.
So yeah, the children are sort of picturing in their head, they're like, oh, the music has changed. So now they had to pick a character beforehand, but now my character isn't strolling on a beach, you know, with the sun beating down on them. Now they are, and they can picture so well in their head. And then it gets to like the resolution. You've got Indiana Jones on, and then comes the hero riding into the sunset, you know, saving the day. They're all understanding how music makes us feel, how it triggers your imagination. You know, like if you watched a horror movie without any of that background music, you're not going to be scared because you're going to be like, oh, what's that guy doing popping out from behind the wall? Like, didn't expect that. It's the music that actually builds the suspense in you. It's nothing to do with the fact this guy jumps out at you, because if there was no music there, you wouldn't even notice. You'd just be sitting there like, all right, okay, hiya, how you doing? You know, you're not going to, well, maybe not with, what are you doing here, haha? You wouldn't be
trying to scare me, haha.
Scared. But I think if you're starting with, so speaking of someone, right, who has no artistic ability, I've said that. I really like, I did this to you last week, it's payback. I really like the draw-alongs on YouTube. Like the Art Hub for Kids have really good ones. We have been doing Pugs of the Frozen North by Philip Reeve, and that's a class novel, and the illustrator has a video on YouTube of drawing. That's why I was drawing a pug. I wasn't just drawing pugs for fun. We were redesigning the front cover, and mine's on the whiteboard. Obviously, children are so nice. I'm like, okay, you know my abilities.
They will compliment you.
No, they literally gave me an applause. And I'm looking at this pug like, guys, I don't even know which one's his ears and which one's his eyes. Like, let's not, you really don't need to give me but I'm looking at theirs and I'm like, how did I get this from the same video?
Incredible.
And yours are awesome, but they just give me that little bit of, and I'm honest with them. I just say, you know that I'm not good at this, but I'm going to try it. And I think modeling that's important. Like if you're doing music, sometimes you see people say, right, I'm not confident with music. You put one of those on, they sit in the chair and they don't, they say, I'm not very good at music, so I'll let you do it. Give it a go. Like if you get it wrong, you get it wrong.
Yeah,
the children aren't going to care.
You're showing them that you're a learner as well. I want to give a shout out. This is a bit random. I've never done this before, but there's a guy on Instagram that I follow. I think he's Scottish. I don't actually know who he is, but he basically just popped up, and his whole Instagram is about like art and things that he does in class. He's called Teaching in Technicolor. Have you come across him?
Oh no.
He says his bio is just a colorblind teacher trying to bring some color into the world. And all of his posts are about like the book that he's reading and the wall displays that he makes and all the art that he does. And some of it, I'm like, what on earth?
Phenomenal.
Amazing. Yeah. Like, where did you find the time to actually make that wall
point
display?
Though, like, look for inspiration in other places, because like Pinterest has amazing, simple, and also there's places that explain it really well, like explain the composition of color and like complementing colors and primary colors and the color wheel. Like, they explain it really well. And then there's really simplistic activities, but very effective activities you could do. I think I said this earlier, my issue with teaching art is I kind of go, here's a demonstration, let's make this. And I don't actually think about, you know, what are they learning about shading or angles or, let's say, the composition of colour. Like, what are they learning about that artistic skill? It's not just going and drawing. You have to try and have...
Has that fly just landed on my head?
It's not on your head, it's behind you.
Because you're looking at my head.
No, it's behind you. Teach health and well-being with confidence with Happy Healthy You, a health and well-being resource designed specifically for Curriculum for Excellence. With editable lesson plans, PowerPoints and resources, Happy Healthy You provides teachers with everything they need for a comprehensive health and well-being approach across the school. Topics are built up progressively and are an age-appropriate level for all of your learners. Visit leckyscotland.co.uk to request a sample for your school.
You can also save 20% off your purchase by using the code INSIDEVOICES. If you've been enjoying listening to the podcast, please leave a 5-star positive review wherever you listen.
It's time for Listener Voices, where we hear from you, our listeners. So for this week's Listeners Voices, I put a poll out on Instagram and I just asked, or a question out on Instagram, and I asked people to just share their thoughts and opinions on teaching the arts. So a really varied sort of response, but actually all going along the same theme of what we're saying, that teachers recognise the importance but lack the confidence or the resources or the sort of time to actually get to do it. So someone said, as a terrible artist, in inverted commas, I dread art lessons. I have lots of creative designs, but I feel so limited in my abilities. That's a very interesting. And I get this as well. Like, in her head, she's like, this would look amazing as an art piece. This would be a fantastic skill to teach.
But then, get it down.
Yeah, her abilities mean she feels limited in how she can then get that across to students.
Okay.
What would you suggest as a little bit of advice for that? How would you kind of tackle that?
Oh my goodness, you keep putting me on the spot with these advice questions. First of all, give it a go beforehand, like the day before or the night before. You definitely have to have one ready.
Yeah.
And give it a go. It's probably not going to be as bad as you think.
No.
And also the children will love it.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
They'll give you an applause. They will genuinely.
Standing ovation.
Yeah. And also, I think we've already mentioned it, but I think you need to go in with the attitude of being like, right, I am a learner here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the vision. Let's see if anyone else can bring it together. If you really can't get it, I don't know what you're going to do. What would you say?
If you've got someone in your school who's confident, lean on them.
Ooh, good one.
Because everyone has their strengths within a school. And I would say, because we've done that musical theatre club, people do realise that music is probably a strength of ours. And there's been a couple times we've been asked about
you're right, actually.
helping with something or, helping with like the lighting or the sound or like just wee things. Go and ask. Mm-hmm. Go and ask someone, hey, this is what I've got in my head. How would you suggest or if you see a piece of art that a younger class have done or an older class, how can I adapt that to work within my class? Like, you really, because in primary school we have people from all walks of life, some who did the 4-year degree, some who've done degrees in, one of my friends I went to uni with, she had a musical theatre degree and now she's a primary school teacher because she went on to do the postgrad. So obviously that's a massive strength of hers. She did loads of performances before she went into teaching. I would go and ask her.
Yeah.
I would go and say, how can I where would I start with teaching them how to sing a song? Right, they're shouting at me. Where do I start with teaching them how to sing to me? Go and
Remember we got those kids to harmonise though.
Oh, they crushed that though.
Yeah, we sang a song from
and also they were singing
we sang a song from Flicked
and they were singing over each other. They were fully.
It was incredible.
It was so good. But yeah, ask.
Good.
Lean on people.
Good piece of advice. Any others?
We've got music is becoming. This is a 2-parter. Music is becoming more and more common as a specials class. So I think this is in America. So they mean as like people coming in to teach music because they have, instead of non-class contact time and it being a teacher in their school, the children go off to
specials.
They go off to like art or music, which would be great if we could do that. But again, there's no funding for that kind of thing. But art drama is fun, especially in primary grades. Dramatic play / reenactment is crucial to learning, which I would totally agree with that.
We didn't even touch on play. Like
reenactment and the make-believe side of drama, where we're not saying act out this scene. Go and pretend you are someone else.
Yeah.
Like go and see. I can't confess to the fact I used to do this when I was a kid.
What?
Well, in my garden, right, I had this like little wall, and I used to literally walk up and down this wall pretending I was Hannah Montana.
Of course.
I was fully 10 years old, right? But that's what we did because I didn't have a phone, I didn't have a laptop. Like, I was 10. That didn't exist when I was 10. I was outside in the garden the whole time I had a broomstick as my microphone, and I was a pop star. And then my brother would rattle a basketball off my head, and we'd fall out, and that would be the end of that game.
Yeah,
but
your wig would fall off.
That sounds ridiculous, but that's how I learned to sing and how I learned that I liked it, because I used to just make believe in my head that I was a pop star. and going, my neighbours must have hated me. They'd be like, I have heard the best of both worlds 74 times.
The ice cream freeze.
Shut up. They must have either hated it or loved it.
Bloom?
You know, that's how I learned. That's what I liked to do. I like to perform. I like to go and do those things.
100%. I think we've not even touched on play, to be honest, in this, but that is down the school. That is, when the children are a lot younger, that is a huge part of their learning is through imaginative play.
Yep.
And then the teachers observe them in their imaginative play and what kind of things they can come up with. It's actually a great tool for picking up like, see if you can pick up that a child is not using their imagination very well or not engaging in imaginative play. A lot of dyslexia forms and things have that on as like a box to check. Yeah. Because it can be an indicator of something if they can't, imagine worlds.
Like structure it together.
Yeah, exactly. So even in that, it can be a great tool.
Yeah. And also social skills 100%. As well. Because sometimes if you're acting, you're playing out a scene, you're still developing this role-playing structures of
compromise
hierarchy. All of those things are there. Someone also said that art helps develop fine motor skills. So in a way, it should be woven into everything, which I totally agree with. The amount of times that you say, right, go and cut out this bit of paper, and some people find it really, really difficult to do.
It's like attacked it with hedge trimmers.
Again, because everything's been made to be so, how can we cut corners? How can we make this quicker? How can we do this? How can we do that? Instead of using tools that we did 20 years ago where you needed fine motor skills, now it's, we've got a simpler way to do that. And you don't need those fine motor skills anymore. Like really straight, not exactly a great example, but like a sewing machine. Whereas before, if you wanted to sew something, you were sitting there, you were sewing it, like that's what you were doing. Now it's like,
even use a
sewing machine.
Could you use a sewing machine?
We were taught how to do that in school. Did you not do that in home economics?
No, we actually didn't ever do that.
We made an apron in home economics.
Oh, she's a seamstress.
I couldn't tell you how to do it now. I also think we made an oven glove as well.
Oven?
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I really hope there's East Coast people who listen to this. And also, you can't now slag me off for having a Glasgow Uni accent because I just said the word oven.
Oven?
It's not an oven. How do you spell oven?
O-V-E-N?
I rest my case. It's the same as
it is oven though, isn't
the fork and Ford argument. A Ford.
We're not getting into it, but I think that is a good point.
Yeah, it's and fine motor skills are so important. Oh my goodness, they're so important.
Yeah, for everything really. But
everything.
I think, what were you saying there about before you went on to fine motor skills? Something about
imaginative play and reenactment.
No, after that, you were saying something about cutting out. No.
Yeah, like if you ask someone to cut something out, there's now an easier way to do it, so you don't need the fine motor.
What is the easier way to
skills?
Cut out?
I mean, I didn't think of an example for that part. You still need to be able to use scissors, I suppose. But like all those things are, even like you think about like handwriting.
Oh my word.
Art. It's going to have a massive role to play in that.
Just like final point on this is that I think the emphasis on technology in STEM in schools has had a massive impact on the arts. Yeah. Now, obviously we majored on STEM, we majored on, technology, but not to the detriment of everything else.
Yeah.
And I think in schools, there must be a balance. Now, it's the $1 million question, like, isn't it? Like, the $1 million question is, how do you fit everything into your day? You can't, like, you truly can't.
Especially at this time of year when everything is so up in the air. So
exactly.
We are filming this mid to end of November, where Christmas show rehearsals are in full swing, which means your timetable is like all over the place because we're all sharing the gym hall and we're all trying to get our songs in there. So you're like, okay, my time is cut. And it's a shame to think of it like that, because instead of thinking, right, I've now got 2 hours to focus on music and art and all these opportunities you have, it's, my time's being cut by 2 hours. So where am I going to fit this and where am I going to fit that? And I think sometimes it just needs to be, this is part of the curriculum. And it's not something you just squeeze in or you push to the side and say, do you know, I've not done my number talk this week. Like I'll just do that instead of the art. I'm not saying one is more important than the other, but I think sometimes you need to say, right, okay, I didn't fit my number talk in this week. That just needs to go to the side. I'll get to it, but I do need to do this piece of art because everyone needs a chance to shine, and I've not done it yet.
I think the way that we tackle that is a lot of people now talk about STEAM.
Yeah.
So instead of STEM, they talk about STEAM because the arts, it's a good argument. The arts is linked to all of these technologies. Like, you want to become an architect, you got to be good at some kind of design process. You've got to know, angles and shape and how things look is really important. Engineers exactly the same. And so I think the arts is rightfully quite often placed in there, and maybe that's a way that we can start to transition towards in our teaching, that we start to not think about just STEM on its own and focus on STEM, but focus in a little bit more on including the arts in that process.
And recognising that it can be linked to pretty much every aspect of your curriculum. It doesn't always need to be left to the side. So obviously we've spoken about confidence being something that a lot of people have come to us on that poll with, and clearly something across Scotland that people, or the UK people, are struggling with. So I was looking at some things that you can use to help boost your confidence, and I came across BBC Teach have tons. BBC Teach have literally so much on there, and it's not something I've actually gone to. All completely free.
Not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Please get in touch if you want to.
Our email is in the description.
We're looking for sponsors for after Christmas.
But they have loads for art, they have loads for music, and they have loads for drama. And
I didn't know that.
No, it's really good stuff. It's also curriculum linked, which is nice, because obviously it can be linked to Scottish curriculum, it can be linked to English curriculum. There is so much on there. So if you're struggling with confidence, lean on those free resources that are out there, like the YouTube rhythm ones, like the draw alongs, like the BBC Teach things. Go for describing a book character or doing some drama with a book character, or even get the children to make up their own dramatic scene from the book, and be honest with them and just get involved with it, even if you're not sure. Confidence comes with practice, and we tell the children that constantly. But we don't really believe it ourselves. We don't think of it because we think, we're adults, we can't learn how to do those things. But
are you pretending to be Hannah Montana again?
Yeah, she's going to break out into song again. She absolutely is. But go for it in that sense and try and just give it a go. Yeah,
and one of the things that you mentioned earlier was engagement levels in the arts. So how does one
over formal?
How does one attempt to raise that in their class? Yeah,
I think that every child deserves that opportunity to shine, and that opportunity to feel like they're really good at something. And the arts is a way to do that, because we've spoken of the confidence you see in children who enjoy it, they have a talent for it. If we are not giving the arts equal treatment as other areas of the curriculum, we are not giving children the opportunity to shine. If it's something that's a strength of people, you want to show off your strength. So why is it fair that because numeracy is a strength of some children, they get to show that off every day, but singing's your strength and you're never getting to utilise that or use that, so you're never feeling like your strength is being highlighted? We need to give it that equal treatment, and then the engagement from children will come as well, because we're doing it more often, it's integrated. Make it relatable as well, give them something that they can aspire to be like, point out to them that, hey, all your games that you play, the characters have been drawn up by someone, they've been imagined by someone, all the maps, all the pathways, everything you're doing has been done by a graphic designer or an artist. If
just don't tell them that the graphic designer probably had to design like 2 leaves.
Yeah.
A team of 500 graphic designers.
I
designed the rocks
and lots of them. But things like, if you're listening to music, that's why Kids Bop's such a good one, because it's children doing it. So instantly it's, I could do that. I could go. We were watching Newsround the other day, and they interviewed Kids Bop about their tour. So Kids Bop are going out on tour in the Easter holidays. There's 11 dates all the way through the UK during the Easter holidays, and the children were watching this and they were like, that's so, like, I could do that. I could be on a stage doing something like that, because they interviewed the children, they were kind of similar ages, and they were talking about how long they'd been doing it for. And you could see some of my children sitting there going, I would love to sing and dance on stage at this age, and go on tour and sing for other children my age. You have to find something that's really relatable for them. And side note, we are going to go to the Glasgow Kids Bop show. If you are wanting to go, we're going to be at that show. It's literally like a childhood dream, though.
I know.
I mean,
it is a bit
what a
like
full
Hannah
circle
Montana.
moment. Also, if you need a backing singer,
I'll take the job. Did you know I was Jack and the Beanstalk?
He did forget his last line. You might want to choose me instead. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Inside Voices. Make sure to come back next week where we are going to be talking about teacher workload and how to balance and manage all of that. And remember that in here, we use our inside voices.